Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and today I'm going to make this toggle bracelet. Now the nice thing about this bracelet are all the findings are all handmade. So I've made my own toggle, I've made my own cones on the end, and of course all the rest of the chains in the center. I do have a video on how to make toggles, so I will leave the link. You can use crystals, you can use gemstone beads, you could use whatever kind of beads you have on hand. It would be really nice if you used even just an assortment of beads. You could do 1, 2, 3 strands. You could use chunkier beads. You could make the cones a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. It's really your choice. And again, the color combination is yours. I did make the toggle a little bit big on this one. In hindsight, I might actually have gone with a slightly smaller toggle, but I think it all worked out in the end. So let's get started. Running my wire straightening pliers along my wire. It's a 20 gauge wire that I'm working with today. You could probably go up to an 18 or maybe a 22. You could go down to that. So if you have a half hard wire, that'll work already. You don't have to do this. So I'm just going to make 2 cones, and I have my round nose pliers. And if you notice, I usually use a smaller round nose plier, but for this you want a bigger round nose plier so that the cone will be a little bit longer. So I'm just going to start at the top. Ideally, you can just make a little loop on the end, like a really nice tight loop, like that. And then start to work down. Now you're wrapping and you're laying the wire beneath the loop you've already made. So you're wrapping down. You're not going to wrap up. You're going to wrap down. So the wire always has to be below the wire that you just wrapped. And you're just gently going down and twisting at the same time, and you're actually moving the wire at the same time. So the wire is actually moving, and you notice the coils are continuing to move down. Now, if you want, you can tape this side of your pliers so that it's not going to mark the wire. But I'm not going to do that because I find that I can hold it in a gentle enough that it's not marking. So you can see there's no marks on that wire. But if you want to make sure that you definitely don't mark it, that's what you would do. Now I'm continuing to work down. And this is a little bit over a foot of wire that I'm working with. And you could use more or less according to how big of a cone you want to use. And as you're going, you want to just continue to push them together. And that's fine. Even after you have it, when you're all done, you can always push the coils together and have it tighter. So you're just going to continue moving down until you have no more wire. And just try and keep it neat. And you can take your time with it. It's not a rush. And if your pliers are a little more tapered, then it will become, there will be more of a variance in between the top and the bottom. Alright, and if you don't want to use your pliers, you could also use something else that's cone shaped. I mean, some people have used pencils before. I've seen people do that, so and that will work too. The only thing is if you're wrapping it on a pencil, you're going to just have to keep wrapping it around and you won't have the pliers to help guide. Once you're at the end, you're just going to take your pliers and you're just going to tuck that little tail in so that it's not going to be sharp on anything, and make sure if there's any sharp parts, you want to make sure that's filed down so that it won't trouble anybody. And just push your coils together. And if it came out of shape, that's fine. You can always put it back onto your pliers to shape it if you want. But that looks pretty good to me. So now I have 2. Now I'm just going to put this bracelet together. You want to take into consideration when you're making the length of your bracelet. So if I want to make a 7-inch bracelet, I have to take into consideration my cone as well as the length of my chain and as well as the other cone. So this all has to come into your length. Plus, if you're using a toggle clasp or whatever kind of clasp you're using, you can use a toggle clasp, you could use a loop clasp or whatever you want. You want to take that into consideration too. You have to use all those to make sure that your length is correct. So it's best to lay it out like that. And if you notice, it's actually 7 inches. It's hard to see, but it is 7 inches. So that way you'll know for sure how much you need. So this actual, in order to make it correct, it's about 4 inches. So I've already done one turquoise, it's just turquoise chips. And I'm just going to finish off my other two. They're just Bicone crystals, and that's a fire opal color. 5mm and a 3mm. You could use all turquoise if you want, all bicones, whatever you want. It just really doesn't make a difference. You could use crystals, gemstone beads, whatever. This is a 24 gauge wire that I'm using. And it's nice when you're using crystals and so forth, because you can get by with using a bigger gauge wire, and it's always going to be more stable the bigger the gauge. That's just the way it is. So just thread on another bicone onto that wrap loop, and then just a 90-degree angle right around your pliers. Try and keep them consistent. Now if you want to keep your loops consistent, you can always mark your pliers with a Sharpie, a black Sharpie, so you'll know exactly how big you want your loops. And then when you have your loop, just grab hold of it and then just wrap it in. And then just cut back the wire. And tuck any bits in that are maybe sticking out. And then you're just going to do one more. I'll just show you one more. And I have a whole video on how to do wrap loops. We'll leave the link. So you're going to just do a loop like that. Just attach it onto whatever loops you've already made. Grab hold of that loop and then just wrap that tail in. Put another bicone on. And I believe that's the same length as the turquoise. So that would be my last one. And then just one more wrap loop to close it. Turn it back. And then I'm just going to add a few more bicones to this one. So it's the same length. I think probably just about 2. So they're all the same length. Now I just want to put this bracelet together. It's quite easy. I'm just going back to my 24 gauge wire. You could go up to 22 or 20 if you want. It really doesn't really matter. It's whatever you want to work with. So, but you also have to remember it has to fit through one of your beads. It's going to do a open loop, and then you're just going to thread on all your chains that you've made. And so I want to have the turquoise in the center, and I'm going to have the bicone, I'm going to have the opal, a fire opal on the edges. So that's what you would have. And then you just want to close that loop up. Alright, so now that all your chains are secure on the loop, thread the wire right through the cone you've made. So that's what you would have. I have a 6mm, just a round turquoise bead. So what I can do with that is I can just do a 90-degree angle, and I'm just going to attach one side of my toggle. It doesn't matter which. or a clasp, whatever you're going to do. So I'll just put the toggle in, and then just close that up. And when you're closing it up, you'll notice that it's going to snug up everything, so just make sure it lines up nicely, and then you just want to snug everything up really nice. So just trim that back. So that's what you would have on one side. Remember the other side, you're going to do another loop, same concept. So just do a loop like that, and then you're going to guide it through. Now, what I like to do is I like to sort of braid them, I guess. Going to be a little bit more twisted look. Again, that's your choice, which way you want to do it. Okay, so then go to the other side, and you're just going to guide each loop through again. Just give it a little shake, and then that will sort of, it'll be a little bit twisted, but not, so try not to twist it too tight. Alternately, you could just like leave everything straight, and then just attach just a loop again the same way as you did before, but just not twisting anything. So you would just put your fire opal on, and then your turquoise, and then and that would just give it a sort of more of a cascading look rather than so it just kind of hangs. You notice it kind of hangs like that rather than having it all twisted together. And then you would just do the exact same thing, closing it up. Put your cone on, and your turquoise bead, whatever kind of bead you're using, 90-degree angle, and just add your other half of your toggle and snug it all up. Wrap it down, and when you're wrapping it down, you'll notice it will snug everything up. Trim it back. And then you would have your finished bracelet. And the last thing you're going to do is just check that the toggle works, which it does, or your clasp, whatever it is. So this completes the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye for now.